Today we are going to have a creative project Q&A. And we do have a little guest with us, and it's Braden May, who is a concept artist. Say hello, Braden.
Hello.
This is Braden's art, so this is who we'll be chatting to today. I want it to be a little bit more professional because in the future we will be having different people on, so this is going to be exciting. I've already got someone in the works, and I thought Braden would be really good for this one. So this is the kind of work that he does. He's a concept artist. Do you want to explain a bit about what you do?
Concept artist is someone who uses 2D or 3D to, design anything from characters to environments to props that then gets passed on to a 3D artist. So any of these pictures, not like this exactly, but as is showing, could be theoretically passed on to a 3D artist who will then model it, texture it, and then it'll get put in a game. But normally in my personal work, which is the stuff as is showing now, I can never be bothered to go full concept artist mode. So these are just rough sketches and stuff, or things like that.
Yeah, and this is what we'll talk about today. We'll talk about finishing our creative projects. For Braden, that is this. This is his Instagram, his pieces of art, and probably part of that is that he knows what's manageable for him. So what he does in his day-to-day job is a little bit different from what he does in his personal time, and I think that's a really healthy way of working. But yeah, I really like these posts that you do, where you have your concept art and then you have what inspired the concept art, because I think a lot of people who aren't artists think that artists just sit down and draw amazing things, which you do, but
I wish.
you have to have reference images, and there's this. So I love that you share that, this milk truck turned into milk robot, which is cool. So the first question that I want to hear what you think about and to open up with is, why do we not finish a project? Is there any projects that you work on that you haven't finished, and why haven't you finished that? Or what do you think in general? Why do people not finish creative projects? Most of the time we procrastinate because we're fearful of perhaps doing something wrong, or it actually is very important to us. And
that's what Denise has just mentioned.
Oh, where? Many
I don't know.
stop due to insecurities and about themselves, or the specific piece. Exactly. Yeah, that is spot on. 28 said it could be a mix of uninteresting, boring things attached to the ones you do like. That's so true as well. Every project will have fun bits and not so fun bits. You're gonna have to do both to get the project finished.
I think unfortunately it's an inevitability.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it really is. Gavarato Art said, same here, I get to the point that I need to study and practice more and leave it for later. I think that is that is perfectly reasonable. I put things on the back burner all the time when I realise that actually I might need to learn a bit more, or be at a different level. You can always come back to it though. But yeah, we can talk about that a bit later as well. I think for a lot of people, and I think myself included, especially when it comes to sharing projects online, because usually a lot of people nowadays with social media and the internet think that the project is finished when it's out there. It's out there for people to see, to give you feedback on, or to potentially criticize, which is always a bit scary for artists. Yeah, what do you think, Braden?
That can be sometimes why I don't even start a project, because I have ideas in my head. And I'm just I just know I, at the moment, probably won't be able to achieve that, which is probably not a great thing in itself, because if I start a project, at least give it a go, and then sure, it might not be what's in my head, but I can always come back to it in a year or two or whatever when I'm more skilled in doing it, whatever.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. So before this, I got a screenshot of some of my hate comments, And, you know, it does happen. The weirdest but best advice that I got about like receiving hate on things is actually that when you start receiving hate, a lot of the time, unless you're actually evoking work to try and like creating work to evoke hate, and I'm not saying that you should do that, please don't do that. But usually it means that actually you're getting somewhere because people are noticing, and I don't know why they do it, but they do it if you're big enough for them to notice, if that makes sense. So whenever I get hate, I try and always remember, like, you know, like I've said to Braden, with some of my previous videos have like gotten quite a lot of views, like over 100,000, and that's amazing. But with that comes so much hate. But that's okay, because that also means that I was successful. And I want to show you this quote from Stephen King, which is, he was 40 before he realized that almost every writer of fiction and poetry, and basically any creative person, right, who has ever published a line has been accused as someone of wasting his or her God-given talent. So if you are creative, someone will try to make you feel lousy about it, and that is all. And that is so, so true. Like, it's just really true. And it's just the way that it is. You just kind of have to like accept it and move on and focus on the nice comments, because there are loads of nice comments. And one thing that you'll notice is the nice comments versus most of the hate comments. They could have constructive criticism, but that's constructive criticism, and they're usually coming from people who are doing the same things as you. They understand the time, dedication, and effort that it took for you to make that thing. So, you know, they have more of an understanding, and they can actually give you criticism that isn't just like, this is poop. They can be like, hey, I really like this bit, but I think this bit needs a bit more of this and that, you know.
And there's many times when I've had to remind Yaz about the good comments, because I don't know what it is about humans, but they just tend to focus on the negative. And I know a lot of YouTubers do this, and they just scroll through all the nice stuff, but there'll be one comment saying how crap the video was or whatever, and they just focus on that and ignore the 100 other comments saying how enjoyable it was.
That was good. Oh, also, I also wanted to mention, if you really struggle with motivation, before we dive into all the little nuances of giving you tips on how to be motivated, if you think that it could be something medical, then do like phone your doctor. People with ADHD have focus problems. If you have mental health issues, that could affect your motivation, and that is not something that can be fixed overnight, you know. That's not something you should beat yourself up about over either. Really be kind to yourself and talk to a doctor. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Also, if you're a woman, or if you menstruate, I should say, then that really can affect your motivation as well. If I'm, you know, doing my period season, I'm not feeling motivated. I'm just feeling in pain. So there is that too. And there's a lot of really good information out there around menstruation and how you can work with that to actually increase your motivation around the times that you are ovulating. Because actually we're more inclined to like be motivated when we're ovulating. So the more you know. Human body's amazing. Hormones. I just want to give some general time management and planning tips. No one actually asked any questions about this, but I think it's pretty important. So I've just put some bullet points down, because I think time management and burnout is another main reason that people don't finish their projects. They expect to maybe be done in like a few weeks, and actually it's going to take them like a few months. That happens all the time. So my main bullet points, if you don't mind me just rattling through them, Braden, you okay with that?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Cool. Break down your project into small tasks, and then create mini deadlines for each of the small tasks. So whether that be like every chapter of your book, or getting your models finished for a game, or having the first pass of lyrics recorded for a song. Once you have your small tasks accounted for, make a soft deadline for the overall project that you can hold yourself accountable to. And always add contingency to that overall timeline. Make sure that you have time in there to be social, to have you time that's not just working, especially if you have a full-time job alongside doing your project. And write it out in a written schedule that will remind you. Like, I find this very helpful anyway. So I put it into Google Calendar, and then I'll get like a bing, and it will tell me what I have to do that day, or, you know, I have a deadline coming up. And then on the day that you are supposed to be working, then write a to-do list down. I like to do this physically. I don't know, it's just something nice about it. Just so that you're not overwhelmed on what work you have to do that day, and you don't overwork yourself, because you just keep to the to-do list. Try to not make it too long though. And then just reevaluate your timeline and your schedule on Google Calendar or wherever you've decided to do it, and keep reassessing. If you have to push back the deadlines, that's perfectly fine. Like, don't beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself. And that's my time management and planning tips. A lot of information.
Very good. And to go back to what you said earlier, I have none at all because of my personal work. I don't do any of that stuff. I have it ready when it's ready, basically. But yeah, if you do need time management stuff, follow Yaz's advice.
Mm-hmm. See, these are two completely different people. I need deadlines. I really do, because I'll get lost and I'll get overwhelmed and I will overscope myself. You don't ever tend to do that to yourself?
No, I guess that's because I don't time management. So if something is going to take me a long time, it's perfectly fine for that. Or, you know, if I do get bored, like, it's fine for me to drop it.
You are just the kindest person to yourself that I know. It's wonderful.
I never really thought about that, but
You are.
maybe.
You give yourself enough, you're just like, I can't make it today. That's okay. I'll do it tomorrow. Yeah, it's a really nice way to be. I wish there was some advice you can give us. Well, is there any advice you can give us to be a bit more chill?
For me personally, like, I'm literally doing it just for me. Like, I don't have any. I don't see me posting to Instagram as like a thing, or I don't do YouTube or whatever. So I'm just doing it for me. And
Perfect.
eventually, if I do have something to post anywhere, that's cool. I'll do it. But yeah, it's all just for me. So
That is actually a really good segue to figuring out why you create. Thanks for that. It's our first question. So the great Gatsby, which is a really cool name, by the way, said, how do you manage to keep confident in your project without any external feedback? I have self-esteem issues and constantly think I'm wasting my time on a project that won't go anywhere. And I have no one to tell me if what I'm doing has any merit or appeal. First of all, I would say there's something quite interesting about that question, because the great Gatsby says they worry that it won't go anywhere. And that, like, just, I would like this person to explore that more. Like, where would they want that project to go if it was finished? Like, who are they making it for, or what are they making it for? Is it a film and they want it to be at a film festival? And, you know, who are you making something for if it's not for yourself? Because usually everything we make is for ourselves. Well, usually, that's my own interpretation of art anyway. But yeah, I think this person can get some really great introspection if they like tackle those questions. Where do they want it to go, and who are they making it for? We watched Kiki's delivery service the other day, and I thought this quote was beautiful for this question. And it's a quote in Kiki's delivery service, and they say, "We each need to find our own inspiration. Sometimes it's not easy." And it's so true, because sometimes we do lose inspiration. You know, artists will not want to draw anymore. Musicians won't want to sing or play music. Game developers won't want to develop. They won't want to open up a game engine for a while. And a lot of that is because maybe they've forgotten why they enjoyed it in the first place. I think we all go through this sometimes. And really, we do have to figure out why it is we create. What are we doing it for? What does it provide us? Because it's probably not money. That's for sure.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
It's I think that is the important part. Like the important thing is why are you doing it? Like
Exactly.
if I'm sure everyone eventually would like to be the next Stephen King or a big film director, but until then, you just really have to love the process of whatever you're doing.
Absolutely, yeah. And, to be the next Stephen King or, whoever it is, you have to bring something that's completely unique to the table because that's what they brought, right? So you have to find that first within you.
Yeah, and I think when you say completely unique, it doesn't have to be like something revolutionary. It's just maybe you look at the world or just something slightly differently to Stephen King, and it's just enough to make your work a bit different from his, and
Yeah,
that's I think that's perfectly fine and perfectly good to make you obviously stand out and people want to see your stuff.
absolutely. Absolutely. Also, I'm just going to say, I also understand that this person was asking how do they stay motivated when they don't get feedback. So I also do want to say it's totally fine to get feedback when your project isn't finished yet. And it doesn't have to be feedback from other artists in that field or creators in that field. You can get feedback from your family, from your friends, people that you trust really, especially if it's still not finished yet because it won't be in a finished state. But yeah, you can definitely show other people. I mean, even someone who doesn't know the craft can still give you a viewer's perspective, which is really valuable.
Yeah, 100%. Like, so if I wanted feedback on like an art piece I'm doing or something, if I went to an artist, I could get more technical feedback and like, our perspective wrong, these colors are bad, blah 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 blah. But if I
Yeah.
went to, I don't know, say my mom, she'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is great," or she might be like, "Oh, I don't understand what you're trying to do here," or you
Yeah.
know, it's it just I guess depending what sort of feedback you want depends who you should go to. And as you said,
Yeah.
like even someone not in the field can perfectly have good advice for you, even if it's not
Absolutely.
like, "Oh, this is wrong" or "this is wrong." It's just like, "Oh, I'm not seeing it," or "I thought this was happening."
And I think, people that you respect, by that, I don't mean people who are just going to say yes, yes, yes all the time. I mean people who are going to have your best interest at heart. So they're not just
Yeah,
going to turn around and say, that's bad. They might say, oh, I'm not sure about this or whatever, but you respect and trust them enough to know that what they're going to say is from the goodness of their hearts. And, you know, that's
yeah,
very
it's
important. Yeah.
trust. At least they're honest.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Um, Going off this, you said you create for you, but like, what are the reasons you create?
I just have a idea in my head, sometimes a stupid idea, and I'm just like, I have to get this onto paper.
So just the simple fact of being creative, you just want to create.
Yeah, probably. Um, Maybe part of it is also some like s- really bad stubbornness just to get better at being creative. Like I've done it for so long now, I can't give up essentially. So I want to get better at it. So I've got to create stuff to get better at it. It's like a vicious loop.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
I don't have a solid answer
No,
for
it's
that.
it's still a motivating way to look at it because you're looking at it as I've spent time in this and I know where I want to be in the future. So I simply just want to carry on,
Yeah,
and that's good. This is the thing. You don't have to have some mind blowing like amazing reason like oh I don't know something really crazily dramatic happened in my life and then I realized I wanted to be an artist. Don't need anything like that. It can be as simple as You know, I've already done a year of art or whatever. I realise I like it more than than anything else. So I might as well just carry on. You know, it's yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
That's how I fell into it. I
yeah,
was like, I spent 2 years drawing. I'm not going to give up.
yeah, exactly. And I think like the reason that I create is I just want to learn more. So it's very similar to you. I
Yeah.
like learning. I like to see what new things I can learn.
A lot of artists I know say one of the best ways to sort of learn themselves is to almost teach other people.
Yeah,
Like I know a lot of artists, they do a lot of paint overs and stuff, and they say that's a great way for them to just figure out like what their thought process and stuff. So
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
I bet you
definitely.
making them videos helps you just cement the idea even further
It
into your head.
does. It
Yeah.
does. I have to look into every detail. But yeah. And then also just, you know, to express my emotions, learn more about myself. I definitely learn about myself when I'm writing songs. And just writing in general, I think, helps me learn about myself. And that might sound really narcissistic, but I think we all have something to learn. We can all learn more about the way we are, what makes us tick, how we feel, processing emotions, you know, they're very complicated. So art can help. So this is our next question from Rowley Thomas. Where do you get your inspiration from? Very simple question, but a very complicated answer, I am sure. Anything you want to share on at the start this time?
For me personally, my inspiration, it's cheesy, comes from the 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 world, I guess. You know, the things around me, whatever. And some people might take that as like, oh, you've got to go to crazy exhibitions and museums and travel, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. Even like, oh, where was it when we was in we went to the shops and there was like a lift with a glass case thing, and I was just looking at it and I was like, oh, that's some really cool like mechanical stuff going in there. That's like really not inspiring, but it was like I could look at this, take a picture, and use it for designs. Like as a person who likes mechanical stuff,
Yeah.
just a lift in boots was like inspiration almost for something that I could design. So
Yeah.
you don't have to like fly on a plane and go to like all the crazy places and spend money to find inspiration. You just have to figure out what you like and then
Mhm.
keep a lookout for it as you're walking around.
Mhm. I absolutely agree. I think you're the more inspiration you can get from the world, and I mean, you want to live as well, so you want to understand, you know, different ways of living, how people think, how people tick, because at the end of the day, I mean, if you do hope to be the next big thing, or you want to at least create things that touch people's hearts, you have to understand those people at first. You need to make your work relatable in some sort of way. I mean, we've mentioned Stephen King. He's only ever lived in Maine, is it? He's never lived anywhere else. And that's made him extremely good at building communities within his worlds, because he's been brought up within a community for his whole life. He understands how it changes and grows throughout the years. He understands how relationships like wane and come back together. He's experienced that, and he's very good at writing about it. His characters are always extremely in depth. Yeah, so the world is a very good answer.
And of course, as you've said in the document, other artists and just other people.
Oh yeah, totally. I also
Yeah.
think it's a very good idea to try, if you can, to get inspiration from like people who are big, yeah, but also small. So they don't have to be Stephen King levels of big. You know, if there's someone that's a bit more on your level that inspires you, I think that's really healthy, because you're also giving yourself a bar that's a little bit more realistic for you to do. Because you don't have X amount of years of experience or a AAA studio behind you, you know. All these big people that we look up to, a lot of them do work with many other people, and usually when we start out, we're working alone most of the time. So keep that in mind. And if you can't find any small people to find inspiration from who are doing similar things to you, then try to educate yourself on the history of people who do inspire you. So the history of artists. So where did they come from? How far did they come? Did they go to uni, or did they do all these things? I mean, it was a real turning point for me when I realized that Tim Burton, who was when I was in like secondary school, he was a big inspiration to me. And he worked with another writer to write The Nightmare Before Christmas and Edward Scissorhands, and he came up with the characters, but he didn't actually come up with the screenplay or anything. And he actually wasn't there on set most of the time when they were filming Nightmare Before Christmas, because he was working on Batman at the same time. And then I realised, I don't have to do everything on my own. You know, it's really good if you can educate yourself on things like that. The next question is, do you know how I can pick a good video game idea? So, I mean, this is specifically about video games, but I think this can be about anything. How can we come up with the quote-unquote good idea? And I know this can be a roadblock before people have even started. A roadblock to them finishing, because they come up with so many ideas. They don't know which one is the good one. They feel like maybe they can't even come up with one good one. What is the good one? And how do we find it?
It's, as you said, no one can tell you.
Yeah, so I don't think... I'd love to say this would be a great idea, and people will say that. You know, like, you can look at the analytics of like what people are playing right now, what's popular right now, blah blah blah, and then that would be a quote unquote good idea, or more, I would say, a safe idea. But I don't think that's necessarily a good idea, especially if you're just making a creative project for yourself that you'll be investing a lot of time in, especially a video game. A video game is going to take you a long time. I would imagine at least a year, unless it's an extremely simple one and you don't have a full-time job. But yeah, not many people can tell you what idea to do. That really is something that you have to come up with yourself. And I'm sorry, that is such a... it's a meh answer, but you just have to make sure that the project is something that you feel you'll gain from, either emotionally or through progressing a certain skill. Like I say, I enjoy learning new things. So, if you don't have this, then you do run the risk of becoming bored, becoming disinterested, just like we spoke about in the beginning of this video, just becoming completely disinterested with the whole project if you don't have something that you're getting from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And, make sure you're passionate about it. And then if you do decide to share it with the world, I guess people either love it or not hate it, but,
Yeah.
I guess it's like most stuff I put out on Instagram. Sometimes like, it's a fantastic idea, everyone's going to love it. And no one gives a shit. But the thing, I'm like, this is all right. Might kick off. You never know. You never know why.
Yeah.
It's, as you said, it's impossible for any one person to say this is good or bad.
Yeah, exactly. Art is so subjective. Every type of art is so subjective. And it kind of goes back to, why are you creating? So, yeah.
As long as you're putting passion into it, then there should be, some good in it.
Yeah, like Miyazaki, the How Do You Live, that's still in development. It's just I read on the Times that apparently the question was posed to him saying, are you going to be showing us what it means? How do you live? Are you going to be answering this question? And then he said, no, I'm actually making this movie because I don't have the answer. So he's using this movie to explore, how do you live? Like, to explore that question and just try and come up with the answer through his creative process. So that's like his drive. And that is a brilliant drive, because why would you want to stop stop making that project because you're essentially trying to learn something about yourself, something about how you view the world, something that that makes you tick. Rixalite. So Rixalite says, I've had a story in my head for 13 years. I've put some ideas down, but don't know the full story. This could be a hard one to answer, but how do you think I should go about writing it? So, I mean, obviously this is very specific to writing, but I think a lot of people can relate. You research something for a very long time. You might be like learning how to make music or a game, how to art by following tutorials and stuff, how to art. And then it comes to actually wanting to get a unique idea down and you don't know where to begin. So this is a great question. Thank you, Rixalite.
As you said here with Tolkien, like he had a good, like massive idea for the world and he had it all figured out. And eventually he just had to start writing stories with it. And yeah, I think researching to a degree is really good, but eventually you do have to just start putting a pencil to a paper or something just so you can get it out. Otherwise, it's just going to be, like stuck in a big binder somewhere of just random notes and stuff. And no one's going to read that.
Absolutely. So I've done a lot of research on like how other people write, how other people create, and through every single time I've looked into someone's history, they have never known all of the intricate details of their creative project before they started. They've always known maybe like the main beats or like in a game, the game pillars. But really, you have to dig into it to understand what the project is and to see how it's going to look or sound or feel, whatever it is, outside of your head. You just need to get it outside of your head. Like Stephen King, he describes his process as like watching his characters. I said he's very character driven. That's what he's good at. So what he does is he comes up with his characters, he just starts to write them down. And then he even says that he's surprised by the choices that his characters take sometimes. And that's just his writing process. And then Miyazaki's films, he doesn't write the screenplay first. He just makes a bunch of drawings, like really, really beautiful ones. Because for him, it's all about the atmosphere, capturing the look and feel of it. And then from there, he'll see where the story goes, like where it pops out of the pictures. And then, like Bin just mentioned, Tolkien, he was writing excerpts of Middle-earth for a long, long time because he was in the army and stuff. And then one day he just got inspiration and just wanted to write this sentence in a hole in the ground. There lived a hobbit, and he just kept writing. And I think that's also what I want to say as well. Don't think that your first piece of work has to be your grandest or your biggest or the best. I mean, Tolkien's was Hobbit, which is like a small quote-unquote kids book. Don't know if it is just a kids book, but that's what people say. And then obviously he went on to write much, much grander, in-depth novels. And they'd actually been in his head the whole entire time, but he wrote The Hobbit first. So yeah, don't put so much pressure on yourself for the first thing to like be amazing.
Because we watch the behind the scenes of the Lord of the Rings films and it goes into Tolkien stuff, and you see a lot of like comments from his publishers, and even they said like the early Lord of the Rings books and whatever were not fantastic. So Tolkien, was rewriting them, editing stuff, fixing it up. And I think if you're sort of stuck in that like depth, sort of what would you say? That if you're frozen with creativity because you don't know where to start. I think if you start writing it, and as you said, even if it's not fantastic the first time, there's nothing stopping you doing it again, rewriting it, editing it, starting a picture again, whatever.
Absolutely, yeah, totally. Like it's all about seeing what you learn from it, right? Like I know Tolkien was also a big fan of sharing his work and getting feedback from people that he trusted. Like we talked about trust earlier, and I'm writing my first short story at the moment, and I thought about the idea for a long time as well, Rixalite, and I ended up just joining a crit group, which it sounds formal, but it's not really. It's just with a bunch of friends who I have who also wanted to write their own stories and had never gotten around to it. So we all just said, okay, we're going to meet up every few months, hold ourselves accountable, read each other's chapters and give each other some feedback. And Tolkien did that a lot, and that really helped him. And I would say, if you don't know where to start, if you do know anyone else that's in the same boat, it doesn't have to be with the same thing. They don't have to be writing. It could be like one person's doing a song and the other person's, making a game or whatever. It's more about just holding each other accountable, and then also being there to be a trusted ear to give feedback to. Yeah. The next one, how to overcome the creator's block. We've all been here and we hate it. It sucks. Leon Cartel Reborn. How do you find motivation to keep on working on something like a project? Even when you think it's not working out, or that it doesn't live to the expectations that you set for it. I just want to say, nothing I have ever made in my entire life has lived up to the expectations that I had set for it. So I just want to get that out there right now before we start talking about it. That's perfectly normal, I think.
Yep. Okay. Everything I create just goes, it's all right.
Yeah.
That's the most I'll ever reach is, it's okay, I guess.
Yeah, I'd be like, you know what, it's all right. But it's never like, this is the exact thing that I had envisioned. Oh my God.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe once you get to the level where you're like a CEO of your own like company, or you're very high up and you have like massive teams helping you realize your vision, maybe then you'll get there. But yeah, most of the time you are gonna feel like you didn't do everything that you wanted to do. But like, try not to focus on that. Like I've said before, try to focus on what you're learning and what you have done that's new, and how well you actually have done along the way, because every creative piece is a new endeavor. You've never done it before, even if it is the same drawing, singing, writing, whatever, I mean, I will share, I did get up here. The only thing that I think was kind of close to my expectations was my song of, the music video for Close Your Eyes. Yeah, Close Your Eyes. Because it was just like a super simple idea. It's just kind of like the sun sets over this 2D scene, and we have like a whale jumping, and it looked pretty much like how I envisioned it. But I made my idea through it was super easy. So if you are really worried about that, and you want to make sure you reach your expectations, make sure that you hinder those expectations, like you reel them back, you make them more realistic. But you can only do that with experience, I think, because you don't know what you can do until you start doing,
Yep.
So unfortunately, it's a mindset that you kind of develop as you continue to make things. So this is another reason why I will say to people, like, just whatever you want to do, please just keep doing it, because not only do you learn the craft better and you get better in what you're doing, but also, you do develop this mindset. You understand how long things will take you to do. You start to develop a thicker skin. You start to understand what is realistic within your boundaries and your limitations. You just learn a lot about yourself along the way, as well as the craft that you want to get good at. Yeah. Resisting the allure of a new idea.
Yes.
New idea. It's actually an extension of the previous question that we had, and it says, it was 2 questions in one. How to not drop a game after I start being passionate about it. So a lot of people, they'll start on a creative project, and then they'll think of a new project and they'll go, ooh, I like this new project, even though I only just started a project yesterday, but I'm finding it boring already. So I think it's a good idea that we chat about this.
Oh, yeah, that picture sums it up perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Uh, it's very tough. I will say that starting off with.
Yeah.
But like I think there's a lot of nuances with the actual question. Nuances? Is that a word? Did I just make a...
Yeah, that nuances is a word.
Oh, sweet. Cool. But like if you've just started a project and you're already thinking about a new one, in my opinion, it's perfectly fine. Just be like, I'm gonna do this other thing because that new project is in your head. You're excited about it clearly. Just do it. But it depends how long you've spent on this other project. As I said, if it's
Yeah.
just a day, you've not lost much. But I know, yeah, some of your projects, I know, like months. So you're not going to get halfway through a video or something and go, I'm going to forget this.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's also another part to that, which is if you do that often, then you might want to rethink, what you're doing and why you're doing it, because changing projects like every other day, that's not healthy, and you're not going to get to finish anything. So I think you do need to exercise a bit of restraint there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I guess from my point of view, most of my drawings that I post out are like a day's work, so it's not that much of an issue. Like I can generally get through an image and I'll be fine with it. But for like,
Hmm.
I feel like your projects are much longer, then yeah, I agree. It's probably worth trying to stick it out, even from my own experience when I've on a bigger project that I'm doing personally. Um, if I am completely bored of it, I'll like, give it a day or two, just see if I can like get something out of it.
Yeah.
Like I'm working on a little project now. I've a bit bored of it, and I was just like, I'll give it a couple of hours, and then all of a sudden I thought of an interesting idea that sort of kick-started the passion for it again.
There you
And
go. Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly. So I think games especially are like a massive undertaking. This question was about video game development. It's a massive undertaking, especially if you have a full-time job. I mean, there's a reason why I haven't created a game yet, or haven't delved into it yet properly since after uni, because it would take me over a year to develop a game like on my own, working full time. It's a massive undertaking, and the longer a piece of work takes, the more distracted you'll probably become, because you're going to
yeah,
end up getting less passionate about it as time goes on. So I would just say, like, before switching ideas, stop working on it for a while, first of all,
yep,
to allow yourself to have those fresh eyes and to enjoy life again, go back to the inspiration part and blah blah blah, all those things, and then consider changing parts of the project instead of the whole project. Like if you had a cool new idea, is there a part of that idea that you can incorporate into what you're already working on? That could be a good way around it.
yeah, I agree. Again, it's why most of my projects are often really short because I have a terrible attention span.
I actually remembered, that I guess there are projects that I have not stopped working on but put on the back burner. I mean, I have so many video ideas that I've already started the script of, and then I just don't follow through with it. So I guess that's kind of my projects that I haven't followed through. It's more the script stage, because then you haven't really committed to anything. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. You spent a couple of hours on it or not.
yeah,
Sure,
yeah. And then
you're
I
not
and then
losing
I
much.
might get a new idea and go, this is so much better. And yeah, so sometimes new ideas aren't bad, but yeah, I guess it's just, have you actually finished a project though? Are you finishing projects as well as sometimes getting distracted by new ideas. Yeah, it's a tough one to manage, but yeah, with longer projects, try and stick with it and try and use the fact that you've worked on it for so long as a motivator of like, come on, I've spent months of my life on this thing. I really should try and at least get it done to some sort of state.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, and I just want to say about video games as well. If this is your first like video game or major dev project, whether that's like a video cinematic in a game engine or something, view it as a prototype. It will really help you, because if you start to view this as like some big game that's going to be on Steam, you'll get really overwhelmed, not just about the project but also about the engine and like probably the folder structure and stuff. It'll start to get messy and you'll go, oh my gosh, I can't work like this, I have to start again to make everything like nicer and easier to work with. Which, yes, I do agree with that, but finish the game first, because you don't really know where it's going to go. What was that YouTube channel you told me about, who's doing game dev, and he did just that?
Yeah, so I was actually thinking of this as you were saying it. Game Maker's Toolkit. He does a lot of like in-depth look into like game design ideas and stuff like that, and he's finally started to make his own game, and he's realized, oh my god, this is stupidly hard, and like even just getting like a little MVP, minimum viable product out.
Yeah.
And from that, he's realized like, oh my god, I need to do this better, I need to do this better, I need to do this better.
Yeah.
Which is a much better way to do it, because he can now, his last video, which I've watched today, he's made a bunch of tools, which has really helped him create levels and stuff, which he was struggling with before.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But the thing is, you do have to go through that process of making a really messy prototype, because you need to know what you want, and you are going to end up changing designs, cutting stuff out of the game, like rearranging things, and it's going to end up being messy. But then once you know what you want to make and you really understand the game you're making, then you know what the folder structure should be, what is needed, what isn't needed, and you just talked about tools. What type of tools are needed, because you need to understand what these tools actually need to assist with as well.
Shall I link the channel in the chat?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I've just linked it. It's a really good channel, just to sort of, especially his latest videos, just get an insight into game dev. And I think he's doing some really good steps, as you said. And
then, of course, if you're still unsure and you don't know if you should just like move on to a new idea because you're unsure about your current game, or you think the new idea would be better or whatever, then yeah, talk to people that you trust. Sometimes just hearing someone's opinion on the thing you're working on, or like seeing their reaction to the thing that you're working on, will reignite your passion, because you'll be like, oh, this is what it's like for someone to see the thing that I've been working on with fresh eyes, with no understanding. A lot of people put updates on social media, on Twitter. You don't have to do that, but I could definitely see that as being a massive motivator, because if you put a video up on Twitter saying like, hey, I just added a new animation to my character, and then people are going, oh wow, that's so cool, I love how the tail moves or something, and then you're like, oh, it's just a little confidence boost and just help you along,
Yeah, I agree. If like on the I gotta stop saying like. Oh my god, I just realised I keep saying it loads.
Don't worry about it.
On the big projects, I think, as you said, sharing work in progress stuff is a good idea.
Yeah, and it makes you less protective over your work as well, because you get into that routine of just sharing and just not hopefully, well, I can say not being as scared. You're always scared. I'm still scared. I was scared before I live streamed today, but it becomes more normal. So yeah.
And you're going to get more feedback, more people looking at your project, maybe some people cheering you on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
But again, it's completely up to you if you do want to share stuff.
Yes.
I'm not saying you have to.
Yeah, and you can share stuff too. You could even make like a group chat with your your trusted friends, your trusted colleagues, family members. It doesn't have to be social media either. Good point. Yeah. This is the last question now. Knowing when to finish. So the question is from David Heaton. How do you actually finish a song? So this is about a song, but I think it's a very good question to ask about any creative project. When is it finished? When should I release it? When should I tell everyone that my big thing that I've been working on for a long time is done? And it's very difficult because, my answer would be a creative piece of work is never finished. One does not finish art. One says, that'll do, donkey. And yeets it out so that they can start on a new project. That's basically it.
Yeah, it's very true. I always get to a point where I'm sort of bored, or I don't know how else to push it any further. And then, as you said, yeet it out and move on to something else. Yeah,
exactly. It's really difficult because it is more of a feeling. It just kind of feels right. That there's always something more you can do. But I cannot stress, please do not work on the same thing for years and years and years when you could have made 3 or 4 different things and then learnt more from making all those new things and then progressed more. Unless you really feel like it's worth it for you, and that's absolutely fine. But yeah, there's always something you can change. So you really do have to give yourself some leeway to don't hit 100%. Just hit 80% of your expectation,
Yeah, and as we said earlier, it's very rare anything we create ever hits our expectations in our head.
Yeah.
So figuring out how to, I guess, manage them will also help you understand when something might be finished.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can't rely on the feeling because maybe you haven't exercised that, you haven't done a lot of projects, or you just don't trust yourself yet, which is fine, then the soft deadline really works. That's one reason that I used to be a perfectionist. I am still battling with that now. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. So soft deadlines are wonderful because I'll always tell myself that something needs more work and it's, oh crap, I messed up there and this isn't good enough, blah, blah, blah. But if I'm already at my soft deadline, I have to look at it from the perspective of okay, I want it to be done by now because I have a backlog of stuff that I'm really excited to work on. So is it actually worth me spending more time on this thing, or is it done? I get to look at it from that perspective instead of just beating myself about every little thing. I'm just no, I've reached my deadline. I should be done now. Am I done? And then, I ask myself.
And
yeah.
A good tip with that is if you're at that point, and then you've done this with me sometimes, you ask me to look at it.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're like, what about this? Look at this is wrong. And I'm always like, what are you on about? I didn't notice anything.
Yeah, exactly. Trusted people. Yeah. Show the trusted people your finished thing. And then they probably, 9 times out of 10, they won't even notice those tiny mistakes that you've made. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But it's true. It's true. I'm going to answer Strawberry 12's question. As someone who's doing all parts of game dev, music, art, programming, etc., how do you keep motivated when you're learning a new skill? Specifically, how do you keep motivated when you know you're probably going to be bad at it for a good while? You just have to understand that it's a choice. You're either going to specialize in something and be really, really good at it, or you're going to be a jack of all trades and be kind of good at a lot of things. And personally, I wish I can give you a better answer, but I've tried to specialize for years. I was really trying to fit the mold of someone who had a title and was specialized, and in my heart didn't like it. I got really upset. I tried to be video only person, and I didn't like not doing game dev. I tried to just do game dev, and I didn't like not making videos, and throughout this whole time I've always been singing and making music, and it just makes sense. That's all I can say. I'm not really thinking about how good I am or how bad I am. I'm just thinking about what makes me happy. So I guess it's just a really simple thing of like, if you're enjoying it, then does it really matter? Like, if you're really good or really bad? Because you're going to get better anyway if you keep doing it. Does that make sense? Oh, here we go. Sid's asked a question. Has there ever been a project that you couldn't work on anymore for whatever reason and just considered it done and put it out there? I feel like that happens every single time.
Yeah, like the creative block or the allure of a new idea. Like I guess there's a certain threshold where I'll reach, and if I'm like, I'm happy with, well, not happy, but I'm okay with that, happy with that, whatever.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, it's done.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of the time, I know you don't really do any documentation for your stuff, but you'll have a vision of what you want to make, right? And then for me, I usually do have a document, and especially for like games, there'll be like pillars or whatever. So it's kind of like, as long as you have the main pillars, so the main features, the main meaning behind whatever you're making, as long as that is fulfilled, then to me, that's kind of when I'm like, okay, like it's done. I think that might be it.
We done?
I think so. So thanks very much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a lovely day or evening, and bye. Say bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
I was just about to say I've done the done dab, so we're done.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Did it like this?
Like what?
I did.
What was that?
I did.
A ghost? Oh, now your stream's caught up. Yeah, it's like that.
Ow! You used to do it 3 times now.
3 done dabs. Whoa.